those are some nice peaks, man.
You know, I would love for Peak to be available on the PlayStation, so eventually we can, you know, play it together.
That might be fun, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I really want to play Peak with you, but I don't have a PC.
And then I can come up behind you and go, "Oh, those are some nice peaks, man."
I think Kern is being released these days. So I think.
Oh, I thought it was out already. Is it?
No. I think it's released either today or tomorrow. For anyone out there, we're recording on the 25th of January 2026. So I think it's coming out on the 26th.
Oh, right. You were just playing the demo.
Yeah, I played
on that stream. Okay.
Played the demo. Back in the beginning, the early days of our poddy.
Don't call it a poddy.
Potty.
Stop.
Potty.
It's a show in a pod. Cast in a pod. It's not the poddy. The pod is not the show.
So, you're VoleMaulder.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Some days better than others. I'm all right today.
Okay. It's progress. January is a dark month, so it's hard to feel good about things in general.
Yeah, at least the days have started getting a little bit longer again.
Yeah.
The whole like getting dark at like 2:30 or 3 is hard.
Yeah. Yeah, I finally can go to work when there is light and come back from work when there's still light, at least for a little bit. So it's something.
I don't know if there's still light. What time do you come back from work?
I finish 4:30. There's a bit of light still at 4:30.
There might be a bit of light.
It goes away by like 5, but it's something.
I mean, I'm further up north than you are.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. You have that advantage, disadvantage.
In some ways, it is an advantage.
Well,
but
in some ways, it is an advantage, and I am looking to maybe take advantage of those advantages and leave the south
and make some advances.
Anyway, I'm spaceotter. In case anyone cared. What are we talking about today?
We, my dear listeners, are talking about Topopoesis. Or as the actual word goes, Topopoesis.
Topopoesis? Topopoesis.
That. While we eat some gyro with, what was it that goes with gyro?
Tzai.
I can't even say that.
We're making fun of how people that are native speakers of English, how they butcher words that don't come from English. So Topopoesis, gyros, tzatziki. Oh, you know,
several names.
One fun thing that I saw one year that I was back at home, some tourist was ordering a beer which is called Vergina. It's like a brand, a Greek brand, and I consider it the better ones of the cheap variety, let's say. So he was like, "Oh, excuse me, can I have a Beptina, please?"
What?
Beptina.
Oh, they were okay. They were seeing the actual Greek word, not the Greek word like in English.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Because if it was in English, it would be Bergina.
Yeah, that's why.
And that would be worse. Sorry, sir. Could you give me your cold Bergina, please? In a pint glass.
I mean, I'm pretty sure we are also, as Greeks, butchering a lot of words that we're not familiar with. This is funny both ways.
Oh, yeah. I will not encourage you to make fun of us, though, because I will just call you racist. So, if you're an English speaker,
I'm okay with good-natured fun, but that is a bit hard to tell sometimes on the internet.
I'm not. I'm not the fan of any fun. So today we're going to be 100% serious like we were last time. We're going to talk about religious themes. We're going to talk about politics. And we're going to talk about
existential terror.
Musaka.
Yep. So so I've had this question in my mind for a while about a little bit of background, I suppose. I'm someone who enjoys immersion in games a lot. I enjoy that on several levels, but one in particular that I'm really fond of is games that give me a sense of presence in their world. So something that I can inhabit. And for that to be successful, I suppose, there are several components that need to come together. Some of it might be narrative, some of it might be what the game allows me to do, but all of that happens within a space. And the question I like to explore here with you is what makes a space become a place? Like what makes a virtual space start feel like an actual world?
Okay, yeah. I was gonna ask you, like, you cannot just leave it what makes a space a place, because that it's too vague and people will be like,
space, the final place. It is actually.
If they make
Probably.
burials in space, it would be the final place.
Well, where's Earth?
I mean, space as the idea between the space between planets, not on a planet.
So in interplanetary space.
That.
Does it have to be interstellar, or we're talking within the solar system?
I would rather pick a better movie.
Okay. So we're going for Homer in space.
We can do Solaris, the Russian version, like Tarkovsky, or
why? I love George Clooney.
No, not that. Sorry, it's the wrong version to watch. Apologies.
It was horrible.
I have not watched the remake of Solaris. I have,
unfortunately.
I remember that when I was young, our local video club only had that, and I never got it because I had already watched the original, and I was like, I don't want the other one. Don't need it. Anyway, space. It's the place where we want to inhabit, and we're failing because the people that try to go to space are idiotic tech moguls that think they know things, and instead they just make dodge.
This is a different conversation about what the fantasy of space is, because I grew up with that fantasy, but let's stay to what we're talking about today.
Okay.
Which is, like, before I share my reflections on this, or where my mind has taken me while I'm playing several games that do this well, because that's I don't want to focus on games so much that do it badly.
I don't want to focus in games that do it badly. I want to mention games which their approach breaks this immersion for me.
Okay.
As juxtaposition, because I'm not going to mention games that I don't like today, but there are games that I just just cannot convince me.
Yeah, so from a little bit of a conversation we had just before we started, it sounds like you have specific games in mind to talk about for this.
Yeah, I have some examples.
Whereas I was coming into it with an idea of, like, all right, what are the components that contribute to this? So perhaps you can tell me about the games you have in mind, and I can ask you questions to see if, like, what emerges in terms of what components need to be in place, or what needs to synergize for that to actually happen successfully and perhaps not successfully. Because I have, like, a very stripped down version of, like, if we look at something like, I don't know, Tetris, that is a space, but it doesn't really have much of a sense of place as a thing.
Okay, yeah, I'm in.
But
let's do it.
You only need to increase it a little bit, in my opinion, and then it starts to become a place pretty quickly. Because if you look at, I don't know, Super Mario or even Pac-Man, it already has a bit more sense of place than something like Tetris has.
Yeah, sure.
Like, very, very little compared to something like, I don't know, Red Dead Redemption, obviously, or Mass Effect. But like between that, like there's a huge range. So what is it that increases that range, that brings something up in that spectrum? So what did you have in mind?
What makes this good is that I had made also more of the like side kind of options. So in case we talked about the same things, I would bring them up. But because now we're going to be talking kind of commonly, I will just bring up the mainstream things that I knew both of us would speak about.
And I will also say that there are games that do some of what I have in mind very well, but not other parts. And they still have a good sense of place, but some parts are missing. And then that affects my memory, I suppose, or how it stays with me. And what it means. So yeah, let's see where it takes us. We don't have a structure for this. This was more like, let's explore this topic while we record it. And
yeah, sure.
See what comes up.
So one approach to space and world thing in games that I thought about bringing up is the level-based game. And an approach to this would be a Ratchet and Clank. So a map with like planets that you go in, you do the playground session, and you go out, and there's again the big map that's kind of empty otherwise. And how, for me personally, I fail to get immersed fully in games like this because I never feel like it's built, like it's a real lived-in world. It feels like a playground for me. If that makes sense. And this is like a very similar approach to games, like you said, with Super Mario, Astrobot that I played recently, like this level-based approach to mapping.
What is it that's missing, you think, there?
I'm not sure, because usually the approach with these games is they're very focused on the now and what you do and what you interact with. With Astrobot, for example, specifically, it's literally like floating platforms in the middle of nowhere with nothing much in the background. I love Astrobot, just saying. Just putting it out there.
Yeah, same.
And in the case of something like a Ratchet and Clank, for example, where you have like an overworld map with a selection of planets that you're gonna go and play in, while cutscenes and everything can make the world look rich, the fact that it's so limited at times almost feels fake. It feels like playground sections, basically. And
so it feels fake as a real world, and it feels more like a playground.
Yes.
Like a set.
Yes.
But a set can be real, right?
It can. Yes. But these are like cases that I don't feel it works for me.
But suppose you went into a theme park or something, right?
Yes.
Or I don't know, an escape room or something like this, something that was a setup in a world. You wouldn't say that is a real world, but it's a playground that is real.
You said we're gonna go nerdy. Yeah, sure.
So does Astrobot or do the levels in the Ratchet and Clank, do they feel real for what they're supposed to be? Do they feel real as playgrounds?
I think this brings up a lot of my assumptions of stuff that is surrounding realism, but it's not because it doesn't.
But so what assumptions were you thinking?
I guess it's like a freedom of play, like let's say, that changes things for me, like a bigger interconnected world that feels a little bit more realized is something that can pull me in more easily. One of them being something that we both would vouch for in The Witcher 3, where it's like they have gone above and beyond to make it look as lived in as possible, despite how horribly deformed the children look in this game.
Yeah, that's perhaps like a bonus round. Children in video games and how the uncanny valley really.
I don't know. What do you think? What do you think that like an overworld map with like little different planets that I go between them or different levels that I go between them does not make me feel like that world is a lived-in real place.
If we are to juxtapose that with something like The Witcher or something like... So what does The Witcher have? The Witcher has a lot of people that have seemingly routines in their lives, although if you really look closely, it starts to fall apart, obviously. But the NPCs and the stuff you see in the world makes it, as you say, feel or look convincingly like a lived-in place.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, I guess what you're saying is that something like Astrobot doesn't look like a lived-in place. No one lives there.
Yeah, but I guess Astrobot is inside your console.
Yes, that's why I kind of brought up the example of, or the analogy of something like a theme park. But Ratchet and Clank is supposed to be a world. It's not supposed to be a playground. It's not like a theme park inside your console.
Yeah.
So if it's supposed to be a world, I guess perhaps we're expecting it to behave as one, or to have cues around that would reference things about the real world in a way we expect, or evoke something that is familiar from the real world.
Or I guess create a system, a livable kind of system that shows us that, whatever is going on there, lives under some rules, some reality, even if it's not similar to ours.
Yeah, that's where I was gonna go next. In that, even if then it's a fantasy world, you build upon whatever familiarity you evoke, and then you create something else with it. So you already have me with you there. So I'm already believing a bit of what you're giving me. And then it needs to have, I think, indications perhaps of relationship and of human activity, or not, if not human activity, but character activity.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so the people in The Witcher do stuff. The world looks like there are people who have lived there and have left marks around. There are traces of activity everywhere in life. Whereas in something like Ratchet and Clank, that activity is not really obvious. It's not just obvious. Everyone is standing around on their spot, doing a bit like more like a cardboard cutout that has like a button that says things, and that's about it.
It is made to tailor to your experience. Every game is, but it doesn't necessarily look that natural. And I think that goes also in the realm of like, do you buy the empowerment in games, and does it feel justified / real to be the main thing that the game spends its time tailoring to?
Yeah, there's a sense of there's a certain level of plausibility or implausibility with a lot of things that happen in video games, and you need to suspend your disbelief to an extent because there are systems that don't work in the same way life works. And how well, I suppose, a game maintains that can be a bit of make or break for me with some of these things.
Yeah. And I wanted to juxtapose these two things, so like your level-based stuff and like a game like a Witcher, because it's the most obvious comparison we can make in the beginning. Like, it's like hyper-realism, like let's go as far as the technology can get us to actually make a place feel...
Like almost world simulation.
Basically.
On the surface, at least. Yeah.
Compared to a playground. Like, and why is it easier for us to be immersed in like the world simulation compared to the playground? And I think the suspension of disbelief there in video games like comes in, and it plays on how strong have they worked narratively to bring this to life compared to how hard have they worked technically to bring a world to life.
So would you say then that there is, at least on a basic level, a distinction between linear games and open world games for this?
I would say so. I think open world games as a set have less to work on. Like it is less tricky for them to work immersion wise. What they need to do is just make things as believable as possible, while something that's linear, it is a little bit more tricky because you need to think about, okay, yeah, we're making this. Do we want to make it realistic and immerse people? Do we care even about it? Or B, if we do, how do we make all of this feel more real according to the rules of the game?
It's interesting because I would think that on some level, something that goes for realism, like an open world game that pretends to be a real world, humans are incredibly sensitive to picking up things that look real but are not. That's the whole idea behind the uncanny valley term.
Yeah.
One might assume, or I would assume, that perhaps like it would be harder for an open world game to maintain that illusion than a tightly directed and controlled linear game. But the world, I suppose, is not tightly controlled or linear in that sense. So if you don't play along with the linearity, it will fall apart way quicker than, well, I see that hut over there, let's go and check it out. But there's an invisible wall. If in an open world there won't be that invisible wall. There will be eventually an invisible wall, obviously. And depending on how you handle that, it may seem artificial or not. Like Witcher does that fairly okay, I think, and subtly, in that they're nothing but monsters beyond here, just turn back, and then it turns you back. Instead of coming across a literal invisible wall.
Yeah, this is a new approach to the limits of games now that it has happened. I think in more recent years, that instead of putting like a mountainside or a sea or like an invisible wall, it's more like, okay, yeah, you're off the limits now. Like this is where your story is. Like, turn back.
I'm okay. I don't mind the seas or mountains and stuff like that, because that seems organic to me. Like,
yeah,
okay, there's a mountain I can't really cross here, so fine, whatever. There's a sea and I can't go into the sea. It's the games, and I guess I don't know if it's even generational, because you can do that in older games. It's not a technological issue. Like where you see the map continue, but you're just walking on the spot because you can keep going.
Yeah.
It's like at that point it becomes a Truman Show, not a world.
Not to say that The Witcher is like the perfect example, and that The Witcher is like unbreakable immersion-wise for the whole way through. All of the games that are going for this hyperrealism break at some point. Like the realism has to break. The Witcher is a very good example because not only have they tried to make it realistic, but also they made everything around it feel real, well-defined, written well. Like if you have anything in matters of a simple letter that a peasant wrote, and the main story, like everything is given a lot of focus and not, it doesn't feel cheap. They try to keep this like as immersive as possible. Of course, you get bugs, you get glitches and stuff that break the immersion, but
sure, yeah.
But it is a good mix of, let's say, the freedom of exploration and watching the world narratively becoming a real lived-in place, let's say. So suspension of disbelief needs to be lower.
Yes. So there is there's what you see then in the game, in the world, like how it looks and how it seems to operate and behave. Like, does this evoke something familiar in terms of reality, and then how does it build upon that? Is it like simulating reality, or is it now fantasy, but it has anchor points, enough anchor points for me to go with it? I would argue, as a parenthesis there, that perhaps that is very culturally specific as well, because what we have as anchor points or references, maybe someone in an Asian country doesn't. Like, not even that, even from inside the Western world, like some games are fantasies from a certain point of view and privilege. Like if you're playing something like Red Dead
Mm-hmm.
and you're no white, it will feel very different, I imagine, to what it felt to us. And we're not even like Americans, so we're seeing it from the outside. It's not even made by Americans, I think. So
yeah, no, it's not. It's made by mostly Scottish people, from what I know. But
although I'm not sure about that, I think the Scottish studio is Rockstar has two studios. One is the GTA one, that is the Scottish one, and I think the Red Dead is American. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Anyway, but even that is ironic, because it's the stuff it's evoking and referencing in terms of like grounding it in some reality anchor point are spaghetti westerns that were made by Italians.
Yeah, it's weird.
So
it's weird. I think the reason why I clicked with Red Dead to begin with is that I've grown up with westerns as well.
Same,
surprisingly, yeah. But at the same time, Red Dead 2 was falling in a lot of pitfalls while it was supposed to be super open and free. It really wanted you to approach specific missions in a very specific way, and if you did something else, you just got a fail screen.
Yes, so it's not perfect in any way.
No.
Like that's it's really good at some things, but then the mission structure is so archaic because it's the same fucking mission structure from GTA 1 almost.
Yeah.
And we've not referenced this content creator before, but there's a guy on YouTube called Naked Jakey.
Jakey, yeah.
Who I really like, and he has a series of videos that are titled "This game design is outdated, that game design is outdated," and there's certainly a couple on this. So yeah, they do fall apart on some level, but they do. Why was I bringing that up? Oh yeah, because it's an example of like if you're not familiar with that Western cinema that this game is referencing and recreating in many ways, it's not going to have this. I'm assuming it's not going to have the same effect, and it's not going to be as successful in generating this because it uses so much imagery and so many references that we already take for granted. So we don't need to suspend much of our disbelief, and immediately that feels like a real place because of all these landmarks and all these like tiny little things.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you watch like those westerns that this is inspired by, it looks like exactly like that. So immediately we go, "Oh, that's a real place."
Yeah, and with RDR2, for example, we're going for oil. Oil veins and dinosaur fossils, shootouts to the point that they have like a mechanic surrounding like the classical like gun duel from westerns.
And it's funny because we don't even know if that's referencing reality. It's referencing film reality.
Yeah, an ideal of what it was, a romanticized version, upped for cinema.
Yeah, but it has all these indications of a lived in place.
Yeah.
Of there were people here and there's traces all around. Even if it's not people, there's traces of history on this planet, like the dinosaur fossils, that makes it part of our shared reality. That's where, for example, like Mass Effect for me has a really strong evocation of reality because I grew up looking at the stars and wondering and fantasizing about what's out there. And that game gives me the opportunity to go there. And even though there may not be traces of life on when you're in Mako. Is it pronounced Mako? I'm not sure.
I don't remember.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the little monster truck thing.
Yeah. And I'm on some rock in space looking up and seeing like a moon or another planet or something. No one's there, but I can imagine myself being so far from home in space, and it already gives me a sense of awe and a sense of scale that, of course, is not real. I've never been there, but I can situate it in the reality. And that makes it feel real, even though there's no one there.
Yeah, I think that the same reason why Mass Effect worked for you in that sense, because I'm not a space guy, you're the space guy between the two of us. The same kind of thing.
I am Spaceman.
Spaceman, okay. You're clearly German. The same thing affected me with Subnautica, which is this endless, like, deep sea, like when you go... Because one thing that Subnautica does successfully is that if you go off the main map, you just continue just going into complete darkness. You can go as deep as you want, as high as you want. There's nothing. They're just big-ass monsters. And it, like, feeds into the fear that would be grown into me from, like, the amazement that I had when it came to, like, swimming when I was a kid. And I could not see the bottom of the ocean and everything. It has this feel, same way that Mass Effect had for you. And I imagine that, to an extent, the same kind of feel may be evoked to you from No Man's Sky now in its current thing?
Not as much. That game, it's interesting. That's an interesting one to bring up.
The world building is different. I think Mass Effect had a very strong world building.
That's where I wanted to kind of bridge it with what you were saying about narrative. Like, there is the world part and the spaces and everything and the references and the evocation, but then the narrative is what I think for us perhaps necessary for that to work. Is there any narrative embedded in that world? And The Witcher is excellent in this. You find letters, you like the side stuff you come across, like it's everywhere. There is something. I look at something on the map and I go, oh, what's over there? And I go there and I find something that tells me things about the world and connects things.
You make choices that have like clear visual representations and effects in the world itself.
Yeah. Mass Effect does this as well. Like, there's a lot there, but it's not like you find things about the world and you learn things about it. So it starts to become even more real at that point. And even something like Shadow of the Colossus, which is not explicit, there's still traces of things everywhere.
That was one of the examples I was going to bring up later.
Okay.
How it is to play a game that you're completely isolated and what makes that real. Like a Shadow of the Colossus, like a Journey.
Yeah.
How does it work there? Why do I become so emerged in something like The Last Guardian of Shadow of the Colossus when it's complete isolation, especially inside of the Colossus? Like, it's just you and lizards and a horse.
But there are ruins of a civilization around.
There is implied history. You can see that there was something there before you.
There is embedded narrative everywhere, even though it's not explicit and it's not like writings or someone telling you something. That's where I suppose a lot of the player co-authorship comes in. Like, you start looking around and what you do as a player starts to build upon this, where you can have that favorite term that was a term that was flying about a lot for a certain period of time, about emergent narratives, which is the stuff you do as a player that creates stories in the game and memories.
I might sound cynical with this, but to me, when this came about, it felt like it was kind of an excuse to avoid criticism surrounding emptiness and unintentional building of worlds.
Yeah,
So,
that's exactly what I meant. That this had become the favorite buzzword of promoters and marketers and execs for a while. It's not without merit. I think there is like something like Shadow of the Colossus can have emergent narrative in that sense, because it's up to you how much you want to explore things.
Yeah.
And what to do.
But also, just in a rare case with Shadow of the Colossus, like whenever there is interaction with something else living, it comes from elsewhere, from a bridge that goes to a land beyond, suggesting like, yes, you are in this space, but this space has been abandoned and taken over by these like big ass things for some reason. There's mystery, there's things to uncover, there is life beyond this. With something like Fallout 76, at least the iteration that I know about it, emergent narrative, it was just it was literally an excuse to just give themselves a free pass and a pat in the back because they did not even attempt to populate their own world.
Yeah, that was one of the worst examples in that case. Yeah. That, if I want to be charitable there, that could have been seen more like, here's a LARP playground, go LARP, but in a virtual space.
Yeah, but
like, because but even there, like I don't know, someone writes a story in an RPG like that. I was thinking of the traditional RPGs, a tabletop or pen and paper, whatever the term is these days. There is a story. I don't think Fallout 76 was built in such a way that it would have been a storyteller or a game master or a dungeon master.
Exactly. That's what I said. Is that what I want to say is that that game did not have the tools to allow people to create stories. It had missions that you got from, I don't even remember what.
I mean, we didn't play it on launch. I
played a bit on launch because
you did?
It was available as a beta or something. Like it became available free almost immediately.
They did give it on Plus quite early on. Yes, I've not played. I played only the intro after they had added a shit ton in the game. So the game now, as far as I know, is a completely different game.
I'm still not curious enough to check it. Sorry.
I am a bit, but the only way I would check it is with you, and
let's do
maybe we can do it at some point.
Cool, let's do it. It's Fallout 76 happening now. Cool. One thing that I wanted to add before was that when we were talking about Red Dead Redemption 2, yes, we praised the game, but fuck Rockstar. You shouldn't be firing people. I'm not going to be supporting you in the future, and I don't care about GTA 6.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Union busting pricks.
Like I am very conflicted about Rockstar games because in some ways Red Dead is an exemplary game on so many levels. So much detail, so much work, so much craftsmanship and talent in that. But it's, from what we know, it's happened under a lot of crunch. It's not.
It's shameful.
I'm praising the
crafters,
the people who made the game, not the leadership of that company.
Yeah. Like I'm realizing like at what time we're releasing an episode where we're praising Red Dead.
And I wanted to not talk about Red Dead much, but then as I was thinking about this a lot, I'm like, yeah, but it does so many of these things in a way that is also a very good example to kind of start from, and then look at how other games veer from the hyper-realism that makes it kind of easy in a way to create that sense of place compared to something that is not. I was going to say, when you asked about No Man's Sky and whether that does it for me, and it really doesn't, and I'm wondering what it is about it. It is missing a lot of the narrative components.
It's the world building, like the comparison we made with Mass Effect, and that it's that I don't think how like you can be particularly taken aback and stare at something in awe if it's just not tailor-made to mimic a real life place.
However, So okay, because I'm thinking, okay, let's suppose you go and explore space, and maybe it's empty, and maybe there isn't sentient life, so there won't be any stories there. Where have you started from? That is a question. Where you start from, what your story is kind of important, perhaps, to me.
Depending on who you are as a character, I believe that what you are given as an assignment, as a purpose, as a story, rather, it will place you in a system, and it will kind of create a story around you in a way.
Yeah, and I think that, from what I remember, that was lacking entirely in No Man's Sky, and perhaps, I don't know, do we spoil it? We shouldn't spoil it. I don't know.
Spoil?
Okay, spoiler for No Man's Sky. If anyone really cares about it, I'm gonna say something that will spoil the entire game. It's gonna be very brief, so you can skip like a minute and you'll be fine. Spoiler now. No Man's Sky is not a real place, it's a simulation. And when you reach the center, you reach the whatever, and then it restarts and it creates a new world.
Wait, is it actually supposed to be a simulation, narratively speaking?
Yes.
Oh, that
Yeah.
sucks.
I know.
Oh. Oh, I didn't know that. That's very bad. Anyway, okay.
So then we have this problem of something feeling like a playground. Of course, no game is real. But in that sense, we're gonna be that pedantic about it.
Don't you remember those memes that, like, they were like early, like probably MySpace or early Facebook, like shit, or Tumblr, where there was like stupid gamers putting like all their favorite characters in one image and putting people say like text like above and below the image or whatever with like, I don't know, Ezio and Shepard and Doom Guy and whatever, and they're saying like, people say I have no life because I'm a gamer, and I reply I have many lives, and I have all these characters. And
That was
so
such
cringy.
a cringy. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I have the image saved somewhere in some of my hard drives because it made me laugh when I first saw it. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so there's a problem in No Man's Sky in that, for me, because I imagine there are people who will write that story for themselves, and that will be enough, and that will give them enough of a motivation and a placeness, I suppose, or add to the placeness. It's like I don't know who I am. I don't know where I started from, and why am I here, and what the fuck am I doing? And it's missing. Hang on, okay, I think I'm getting somewhere. Like, it's missing a home. Like, where did I start from? In the same way that, like, Mass Effect has a home, even though we're not on Earth. We're humans. We're from Earth.
Yeah.
I can very much imagine myself in the place of a human in Citadel, coming from Earth. Like, I know where my home as a human is in some way. Then the home kind of evolves within the game. Like, there's the Citadel as a hub, then your Normandy is your home as you go about, and you come back to it. Even Shadow of the Colossus has that sense. You've left home to go to the land, the Forbidden Lands, so you're already away from home, and then there's a new home hub within that you come back to always.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go away again, and you come back to it, and you go away again, and it creates that it creates a sense of homelessness.
Mm-hmm.
Like, away from home. So that is very familiar and evocative feeling for us as humans. And for me, at least, that starts already having a very strong base for that space feeling like a real place.
Mm.
Whereas No Man's Sky does not have that at all. You build bases, but you move away from them, and then you build another base. They're functional. They're like something. It's like, I don't know. you're making factories basically.
Yeah.
I suppose. So Minecraft can, for example, like as I'm thinking about it, I don't play Minecraft, so maybe I'm completely off base here with pun intended when it comes to how actually people play and experience Minecraft. But it is a playground, but then you can build so much in it that you can make it your own place.
Yeah, that is a little bit of the, a bucket full of Legos kind of approach of the possibilities are endless. You can make something, but there's a difference between being able to make whatever you want because you literally have blocks that you can place together compared to a No Man's Sky that what you make is presets.
Yes, and this kind of, funnily enough, this wasn't planned, brings us back all the way back to the beginning to what you were saying about playgrounds. Like a playground can still feel like a real place as I'm thinking about this, not necessarily a real world.
Yes,
because it will have a lot of player emergent narrative, but not embedded narrative in it.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the ideal is to combine everything. But
I think the ideal is to combine everything, yes. Like, emergent narrative is good if there is the tools to create something, as we said before. But giving yourself a purpose within a world, even if it's like empty as fuck. Like, if you take Death Stranding, right? The world is empty as fuck. I'm sold by what's going on. Even if Kojima is a maniac and sometimes what he makes is incomprehensible. But I'm sold by the world. It's like, it feels like our world fucked up in the future. And I think partially why it works for me is that Kojima has always been very political and real world engaged in a way that brings in a lot of his experiences from the real world in his games and his writers, of course. Like, it's a combination of things, but he's steering the ship, let's say.
Yeah.
I think with what you said with the place of home and everything and talking about No Man's Sky, I think it was also the time for us to bring up the perfect example. Perfect combination of everything that makes one single game that we both really love, for me, the perfect case of all. Where the world got sold to me, where the story got sold to me, where I felt like I belonged somewhere, and it all felt real.
Anthem.
Yes. Owen is my spirit animal, and I love sandwiches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure I can guess where you're going with this. So
it's a top 3 for both of us.
Oh. Is it all right? My top 3s are. Wait, hang on. Are you talking about Outer Worlds?
Outer
Wilds. Sorry.
Outer Worlds. It has a space, sense of space and place and everything, but I'm not as sold on it.
Yeah.
Outer Wilds.
Not a very successful or memorable one. Tiny tangent. I attempted to start Outer Worlds 2 yesterday.
Oh, did you?
And I realized I wasn't paying attention to anything.
Oh.
And I'm like, not the time.
Okay.
I don't know if it's the game or me, but like everything was kind of bound, getting in one ear and getting out the other ear. And I wasn't even like, what am I doing here? Why do I care about any of this?
That's the thing. Yeah. Like, I like the first game, but I played at a time that I did not have the variety of games available to me. And I did not have a backlog that I have right now. And I would in no way pick Outer Worlds 2 compared to all the other things I'm supposed to be playing these days.
I think my motivation for kind of going into it or trying to go into it now is, as I've said before, like my Game Pass is running out at the end of the year. So I want to try to like check out some games that I'm really sad to leave behind. And Obsidian Studio Games is one of those set of games. Plus, I was listening to Gerstmann recently say that he liked this more than the first one. Like,
I've heard that a lot.
Yeah, so I'm like, oh, okay, let's check it out. But like, I guess it was this. I don't know, maybe I wasn't in the right mind space for it. So, tangent aside, though, is Outer Wilds the game?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Outer Wilds sold me 100%.
Yes, it did. It did. It behaved in a way that seemed like a real place, even though its scale is so small that it does kind of get into orbit of a playground feel.
A little bit, but
it doesn't quite get sucked in.
Yeah, but at the same time, it combines those things. Everything is tailored and carefully put together to create a narrative. And yes, it's like very low in matters of inhabitants, like inhabitant numbers, but each and every one of them has a reason to be there. They also combine the history of the world in it, because it doesn't feel like an isolated thing. And because you're in a mini solar system, going out and trying to cross the bounds of the world itself and getting into complete darkness, it makes sense, because that's how space is. That's how it is between galaxies.
Yes, and again, that sense of home versus away from home, it's perfect in that game. Yeah.
Like, let alone like what they do with the tone and how they use the isolation as a melancholic, like yearn for home, and it's beautiful. Just I think one day we need to replay Outer Wilds and just sit down.
I'm just waiting to have forgotten enough of it.
Same, yeah. It's hard to forget it.
I know. I don't know if that will ever happen, because it was such an impactful game for me, and one of the most, if not the most memorable gaming experience of my life. And I keep thinking about it, so how am I going to forget about it?
It was mad as well for me, because I played Outer Wilds and Disco Elysium like so close to each other.
Wow.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Because Disco Elysium doesn't do all this stuff very in the same way. I'm not saying this as a critique, it's just a different thing.
It's a different thing. I think Disco Elysium also is extremely successful in creating a sense of place, because
it is
because you are at a specific area, at a specific town as an investigator. You don't have the reason to go elsewhere. That's what you're exploring, and its impact, how the world has impacted the place that you are inhabiting in the moment, is very clear. So it doesn't feel isolated from the world, doesn't feel like a playground. And everyone, like that thing of people being able to react to anything that you do or say and predict ahead how you would approach stuff is really successful for me.
Where I think something like that falls a little bit short is that unless you progress, things don't really change, so they start to feel a little bit like sets.
Yeah, you have the characters that will repeat the same line to you, for example.
Yeah, or like I don't know, the protest still stays there until you do enough, you progress the story for something else to happen. So that's why I'm like, it doesn't do everything as well as Outer Wilds, because time will pass in that game regardless of what you do, and that really supports the realistic feel of that world and as a real place, whereas the other one starts to feel a bit more like I'm playing an RPG now.
With the asterisk, if you wait too long, if you stick around too long.
Or a story or something. Yeah, obviously. I mean, again, believability and suspension of disbelief kind of go hand in hand with video games always.
I find it impossible to be fully immersed into something, Outer Wilds being the closest I've been to full immersion, and I think certainly like The Witcher also getting really close as well, The Witcher 3 specifically.
Is it any important to you, or do you think it matters how good the game looks, or the type of look, like the art style?
I don't think so. I have been enamored by pixel games that I get sucked in, like proper. it's not that it needs to be well rendered, but it's that when things become well rendered, it also goes with this new mania of hyperrealism. I'm in no way advocating for it. I am more into artistic games, even if they're not very well rendered, for example. Like Journey, I felt a sense of place. I felt like it belonged in its own bubble of
But Journey is very well rendered. Like Journey has good graphics.
Yes,
it's not realistic graphics, but
let me think about games that look worse, and I was sold in.
Certainly Ratchet and Clank has not improved in believability or plausibility of the world with it getting better graphics.
I would say Ratchet & Clank has not changed much as a game in general.
No, it's the same game since it started.
It looks better, and still super fun, but no, it hasn't changed much in that sense.
We keep going back to that one, but I'm going to ask it as an example to see if we think there is a direction, at least in games that go for realism, and then we can explore the broader question for this. Red Dead versus Red Dead 2. Is there, you think, a difference? Because there was a huge difference in fidelity. Fidelity, perhaps, is the word.
Red Dead 2 goes in more... goes more out in the immersion-y stuff, like cooking and taking time to eat and taking time to skin animals and taking time to go from place to place. So it's more detached from being a game in a way, but at the same time it felt less organic because of everything slowing you down or being a little bit more tailored compared to Red Dead 1, at least from my memory.
It was very animation heavy, whereas the first Red Dead felt very gamey.
Yeah.
For me, that helped the immersion and the believability and plausibility of the world in Red Dead 2, even though it did slow a lot of things down, but it made it feel more real in that there's a lot of actions that go into doing something, and that takes time.
I know people hate this, by the way. I know people really...
Oh, I loved it. Yeah, I loved it.
Same. I loved the slowness of everything. I just accepted it. And for a similar reason why I also loved Death Stranding, despite the issues. Not issues, but despite the incoherence, let's say, of the story at times.
It's idiosyncrasies.
I don't call Kojima an idiot. It's not nice.
He's perhaps the most idiosyncratic video game director we have. So,
look, I would put him...
And I'm saying this as a good thing. I want more idiosyncrasies, not everything being streamlined and standardized and looking samey and all that. We've talked about this before.
Look, I would put him together in the same group of him and David Cage, but I would say that David Cage is the bad example of this. Kojima is the good example of this. Like, David Cage is just...
he's also idiosyncratic.
He's very
fair enough.
Idiosyncratic, but I don't think he uses it in a good way, while Kojima...
No, like other creators like that I can think of are like, I don't know, Suda51, is it his name?
Yeah.
Or what's the guy making Nier games?
Oh.
Yoko something?
Yoko Ono?
Anyway, that guy. I'm not good with names.
Sure.
He has a Kojima vibe to it in many ways. Sometimes, perhaps more interesting as well. Maybe because he's made fewer games that are Metal Gear. So, but going to the broader question here, do you think like graphical fidelity or quality matters here?
In the way that it matters, I think it's that it requires less from the audience themselves. There is less for me to... There is less disbelief for me to suspend when it comes to something being hyper-realistic. I don't necessarily think that's a better thing. I think it's, at times, worse because it feels like a lot of bigger developers, your AAA games, lose the forest for the trees by focusing so hard on immersion and hyper realism and rendering everything in polygons, speaking of David Cage, that they forget that they also need to build a world. And there needs to be a good combination of the two in order for this to work. And
so perhaps it's not so much that they forget about immersion, but they focus only on one specific aspect of that and forgetting the rest, so it becomes imbalanced.
And it goes like a lot with what we have complained in the past, that like this mania for graphics. Everything needs to have better graphics and the best graphics. And it's like, some of my favorite games don't have fantastic graphics, so it doesn't matter.
I can think of like growing up playing point-and-click adventure games. I remember them having an amazing sense of place to me.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that, I think, came down to there was a different kind of detail level like you could achieve with pixel graphics and hand-drawn backgrounds compared to 3D graphics. And perhaps we've gotten to that point now with 3D graphics at the cost of like incredibly expensive development, expensive and long development cycles. So for quite a long time, I looked back at that period very fondly and thought that I preferred it to the 3D era, because 3D games started losing a bit of that. Like everything was, I remember thinking about this. I had played, what did I play? I played the Beneath the Steel Sky and Beyond the Steel Sky last year or the year before. And I was comparing them in my mind and reflecting, thinking about how the old game felt more real to me as a world and a bit more connected than the newer one, even though the newer had better graphics in terms of like technology. But everything was simpler and emptier because of that, because it takes a lot more work to do it. So even though the fidelity is much lower, and on some level I need to do some work as well to fill in gaps, that work happens very synergistically with the game. But then if you take it into 3D space and you pare everything down and it looks very simple and very empty, I have to do a lot of work. But what I'm getting is a higher fidelity, is something that tries to pretend to be that pretends to be realer, but is missing a lot of things that I have to add myself.
Look, games like Lisa or The Cat Lady or Psychroma, they're games that have really resonated with me, and I felt like they did not need the hyper fidelity that games like Rockstar makes have.
Yeah.
I was part of these worlds. I was part of whatever was happening to these characters. I was fully 100% immersed. And they don't look like rendering wise like super complex. They're 2D side scrollers. In the case of Psychroma and Cat Lady, they were very bottled in like a certain space and confined to make it look like you live within a bigger world. But also Elisa was a bit more expansive and you could explore and everything, but they were very good at the narrative bit where they sold you on how shit the world that you're inhabiting is. Or games,
or how the player, or how the protagonist at least experiences it or perceives it. Those are like those are realistic games. I think perhaps what I'm thinking here is that some of a lot of older games didn't go so much for realism. They were more in fantastical spaces, and perhaps that already was a higher barrier.
I would not call Cat Lady or Lisa realistic, but okay.
No, but well, they have surrealist elements, but it's a human being in the real world, living in a house, and the way people live in houses.
So what would you bring as a not realistic thing then?
Well, Ratchet and Clank, as you were saying earlier, Jack and Daxter,
Abe's Odyssey?
Crash Bandicoot, Super Mario,
Abe's Odyssey?
Abe's Odyssey,
Those
Zelda.
felt real when I was a kid. Like Abe's Odyssey, like gave me a sense of. But also, this is like a whole subtext about slavery is something that brings it very close to home. So even if they're funny aliens that fart, you still see like an issue that is real in our planet, in our world.
Yeah, and those games, I think, were closer to what I was saying earlier about like old point-and-click adventure games. Like they had 2D backgrounds that were, in some ways, quite detailed.
True, yeah, actually. You know, one that was in early-ish, not really, but early-ish days of 3D that I was sold into the world. And it was a collectathon-y platformer thing. It was Psychonauts, actually. And I think it was...
Oh, were you? Okay.
And I was very sold on it. I was very sold by the characters. And it all surrounded the approach that the game had to people and mentalities, while they look goofy, like misshapen, like Tim Burton-y looking characters. It's still like the approach was so humanist in a way, and understanding that it was hard for me not to believe that I'm in a person's brain working through their trauma.
Oh, hang on. Which makes me think now, okay, we've talked about like, okay, the references to reality and real places, and then building on that to evoke a sense of place based on what we recognize as places. We've talked about narratives. We've talked about like what the player can do, which can result in emergent narratives if they're not overused or abused or excuses. What you're talking about here is something that you've often talked about, which is characters and human relationships.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. It doesn't need to be expansive, and it does not need to be every single character you make needs to be like this big, deep thing, but your immediate circle of characters that you have needs to sell me. And there's a reason why, you know, Psychonauts worked, but, you know, Watch Dogs 2 didn't. It's because the surrounding cast of characters, like, I can connect to them. I can see things that I recognize. I can understand their dilemmas. Baldur's Gate 3, you know, that fucking game had a huge impact for me, and the way that they treated characters made me feel like the storytelling was just exceptional, because it cares.
I've not played that one, but like I'm thinking of Witcher, and it's kind of a similar example.
Also, The Witcher has really a really good cast surrounding you. Every single person feels like a person. And I think that's where a game like Ratchet & Clank falls short, is that in all, it's fun in games, but it does not go beyond that. I never believe that there is any other reason for me to care about Ratchet or Clank or Ricket. Was it the name of the lady that they introduced, or Quark?
I don't remember. And that's an interesting one. I don't remember it, and I was just playing a bit of it like 2 days ago. Because I don't care. I don't care about anything. Like, it's just a fun game to go around and play, but I don't care about anyone or anything in that game. It's just window dressing for me to go and play.
I guess it's like the equivalent of a popcorn movie, but in a game, but in a good way.
Popcorn seems to me to indicate lack of substance, right? Is that what we mean by popcorn?
Not necessarily lack of substance, but being unnecessary for you to immerse yourself in a deep, meaningful dissection of the medium. It means like you can just chill, and you're gonna have fun, and it's gonna pass. It's not a bad thing.
No, I'm not necessarily making a judgment in terms of when I say lack of substance. Something can have a lack of substance and still be fun and worthwhile doing occasionally. Depends on what you're looking for. Because like if I'm playing table tennis or ping pong or whatever you want to call it, it doesn't have much substance to it, but I still enjoy it and I would still value it as an activity. See, I don't really care to know anything about ping pong. In the same way, I don't care to know anything about Ratchet and Clank's world, but I still enjoy playing it. I mean, people generally care about people.
Oh, yeah.
It's not a hot take. So
I don't care about people. Fuck people.
So to bring it back to what you were saying, like if you have a good enough cast of characters, well written, developed, you create relationships, that immediately becomes real because relationships are real.
Yeah. And it can be like two pixels talking to each other, like something like To the Moon. I know you don't love it, but I did get sold in the story, and it did feel real to me because, I, like many people out there, I cried during the game. Like it was real. It was a real experience.
Yeah, I can totally see it. It's just, it didn't work as much for me, but like I don't think it's bad or anything. And I think even when we go back to like the narratives, like the thing that in Shadow of the Colossus or something like that, or even The Last Guardian makes exploring the world interesting is because there are traces of people having been there.
Celeste, I got sold on Celeste. That was a 2D pixel thing about climbing stuff. It was a platformer. Yeah, people would put it next to Mario, but I don't know. It worked for me.
And people don't have to necessarily be humans. But
What about cases like a Telltale game? Where there is a lot of like... There can be... Let me rephrase. There can be a lot of good writing. But the moment you play it the second time, it all falls apart because it all leads to the same conclusion.
I think those games perhaps fall apart on the illusion of agency and choice in the game.
Yeah. Yep.
The first time you go through it can hold up. And that's why I tend to never replay them.
Yeah. I mean, there are very few of these games that held up on a second playthrough. And usually because, like, with very few examples of these, like the first season of The Walking Dead, The Wolf Among Us, Life is Strange, despite its intense cringe at times, like it was effective. Like whenever I played it for the second time, it just never held up. And it puts games into a real pickle because how do you make choice happen in a game? The game predicting it and you reacting to you, but still selling it to the player as a real thing. It's hard.
Perhaps this is another episode.
Yeah.
Because I'm curious and interested in that one.
But it's about believing in a world. But if the world is limited and does not react to something wild, or you as a person does not even have the option to do something wild, do you believe in what's going on? Do you lose interest?
It's very hard for these games, I guess, because the only thing you do as a player is make choices.
Yeah. I mean, we could talk also about Dispatch, but you haven't played it yet, so not yet. Not yet.
Because, I mean, everything you do is choices. Like in, again, Shadow of the Colossus, you choose to go left or go right or whatever. But that choice holds up when you make it. And when you replay it and you do a different choice, it doesn't fall apart because now I went right and I ended up in the exact same place.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. Space, in this case, is the issue. That there is no movement, that there's no real choice. It's an illusion of the choice. And games that give you the opportunity to walk around in a world are a little bit more free, in like as a result.
even linear ones like Silent Hill 2, for example, or Alan Wake, you don't make choices, although you kind of do in some way in Silent Hill 2.
Don't spoil it.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm not spoiling. All I'm gonna say is that it's a game that can organically react to your gameplay in a way that is not at all obvious when you play it for the first time. So even me saying this, you won't be able to guess anything or spoil anything. Shattered Memories did that a little bit more explicitly and almost gimmicky. Almost.
And you can also talk about Metal Gear in these cases because there is a certain unpredictability in things that happen.
Yeah,
if you talk about
sure.
even
on a different level, but there is
even on a silly gimmick like a Psycho Mantis, or in the second game, the character of Raiden just like eventually starting sneezing and semi ignoring your commands. Like these are
stuff like that in Snake Eater as well. You can. Have you played it?
Yeah, I have played Snake Eater. I played all but 5, basically.
Okay. I am okay because it's an old game and it's recently been remade. I'm gonna be careful to not spoil things because I'm assuming there might be a lot of people out there who haven't played it, and the emergent stuff that happen in Kojima's games are amazing and fascinating in my opinion. But there are ways to achieve goals in that game that are completely non-obvious.
Yeah, this borderline into the immersive sims, like people would call them.
Right.
Your system shocks, or your Half-Lives, or your Prey.
Half-Life is not an immersive sim. Prey, like Dishonored stuff like that, yeah.
Dishonored, unfortunately, did not work for me narratively wise, but the approach to solving things was pretty good, I think. Didn't play 2.
So stuff like that, yeah. There are levels where this can happen.
Deus Ex.
Deus Ex, yeah, of course. To bring it back to what I was trying to explore as an idea, that even linear games can work with this to build a believable world depending on how you set up the rails around it. It doesn't necessarily need to allow you to walk everywhere, as long as the reason why you can't walk everywhere doesn't fall apart in the way that it very, very quickly and non-transparently rather, falls apart in something like all the Telltale games. Like Silent Hill 2, or even, I don't know, does Resident Evil hold up in that sense? I think it kind of does.
The reason why you may not be immersed in Resident Evil is because everything's goofy. But in matters of like, does Raccoon City feel like a city? It does, even if it's like you have borders and rails. It still feels like there's a horizon, and that is a key. That is a key for me in a lot of games, to not feel like the end of the level is the end of the world of the game. And it is difficult for games to do this. Without as much money, even. I think in order to make a world believable, you need to make the immediate circle around the player believable, and be creative about how you're going to limit them to try and break the game.
Yeah, I don't think it's a budget issue. I think it's direction issue.
I think that, of course, people with more, like companies with more money, have everything easier to them, because if they want to make something, they just throw money in it until it happens or something. But that's a problem with companies. They're companies. It's a business.
Well, we just discussed a game that didn't have that, and to me felt completely believable. Indica.
Oh yeah, true.
Still Wakes the Deep. Also,
Still Wakes the Deep. Just the Loyal Rig. It's believable.
And it was believable because, like, it seemed like a place where people were actually doing what we're supposed to be doing. There were all the traces of that there, traces of relationship, traces of memories of their lives, traces of all the behavior. all that kind
And
of
that's
stuff.
the thing,
So-
like, you can go also in the other extreme of, like, of really big and expansive games, and I completely don't have any belief in it, because, like, if we're talking about Cyberpunk, I never believed of it as a place. There are cases that interactions with things are interesting enough in their own right, and maybe if the game was only focusing on them, I would have believed that I'm looking at the real world. But the way that people talk, combined with the buggy shit of when I played it, combined with just how cynical everything is, unbelievably cynical. Like, my suspension of disbelief was just not working on things at all. Also, the edgelord fucking language in that game was so aggressive.
Yeah, I was gonna say that perhaps I wonder if some of that is genre specific and that source material specific in that genre.
Maybe.
Because I don't think as a game it worked differently than The Witcher works. It still had all the embedded stuff in it. It still had all the detail, and if you go on the side, you find stuff, you find stories. There were relationships. It's just that it just didn't click with us. I don't think it was missing the components. But if we look at something like Far Cry,
Far Cry is a playground. Like,
yeah,
there is no
completely.
Like, it's fine. Like, it doesn't have to be something else. It's a playground, but I don't know.
Assassin's Creed. Does that feel Watch Dogs? Do these feel real?
No.
But they are situated in as real a places as they can be. Like they draw a lot of history. Like they recreate historical landmarks and everything. It's you can use them in museum mode, for example, or whatever. Like since Origins, but it still lacks like everything. Nothing. It's
I cannot describe how hollow a game as populated and rich in content as Assassin's Creed feels. Like, hollow.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
It is, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to fully word everything, but if I am to try, it's the believability of the characters, placement of objects, constant richness of things to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's this thing. It's what I said earlier on. It's so tailored towards the player,
and the UI overwhelms everything as well. And if you turn it off, because you have the option to turn it off, the game doesn't really work.
Yeah,
for me at least, because it's so embedded in its design. Like I can turn off everything in The Witcher and it still works.
Because The Witcher has a map that is comprehensive. While they build a city in an Assassin's Creed game or something, like it does not feel like you can remember it as much. It has spots and vistas and buildings that are important, but they're placed within a little bit uncaringly placed other spots, which are not as effective for me.
Oh, I think it's caring, but it's catering to what the gameplay is. It's not trying to create a world. And thematically, I suppose it's cohesive in some way because it's not real. It is a simulation. Sorry to spoil Assassin's Creed as a premise at this point. I don't think that is a spoiler.
It's not.
But like going back, like we make... like we've mentioned Fallout 76, but if we go to Skyrim, for example, that place feels real.
Yeah, yes, but...
And you don't need a UI to play it.
Yeah.
It falls apart in some ways, but the way the environment is built and designed, like the map...
It is memorable. I could memorize the map of Skyrim. I could not memorize the map of Assassin's Creed.
And the scales, even though it's a small map, somehow it feels very big in the way they have you move around it, and it doesn't feel forced in the way that something like Anthem does. Or, and here's something that's a very like highly praised game, and I think we've both reasonably enjoyed it. But Horizon Zero Dawn, that world does not feel real to me at all.
It has some things that feel real to me, but overall it doesn't.
But it has all those components that we're talking about. Like there's history, there's archaeology, there's all that stuff, there's people. But something doesn't. The scale is off. It's supposed to be an actual place.
But the thing is that like you cross a border and suddenly there's snow.
Yeah.
Like it's so compartmentalized as a world that I cannot believe it's real. There's no gradual build up as you walk north, let's say, towards the snow or something.
Yeah.
One thing that I appreciate about Horizon Zero Dawn is that they created like an ecology in the spaces that you are as they are isolated from each other. So like you would see like from ocean spray in places towards the sea, that you would see that there's like some moss and smaller plants starting to grow around the rocks, and this becoming more lush as you go inwards towards the land. But overall, it was too compact in a way, which is weird for me to say because it is a big map. Wait until you play the second one, Jesus. But like this, to me, it was a transitioning between places. In Horizon,
right. that is its problem, because Red Dead is not like it's a much bigger map and it's still very condensed, but the transitions happen in a much more believable way.
Yeah, and the fact for me that while they pay attention to the foliage, is the fauna that does not necessarily change much between locations. Like, give me like that happens more in the second one. Not to spoil, but. Give me a reason why this tyrannosaur thing is in the frozen place and in the other place at the same time. Like, make me believe in it. That's where Horizon not failed, but misstepped a little bit, I guess.
The seams are showing very much,
basically. And it's tricky. Like, I'm not coming here saying that we have the answer to these issues for everyone, but maybe by discussing we can also understand like what makes something believable or not. Do you think we're getting close to the conclusion?
I think we've covered, like with the games you brought up and how we talked about them. To me, at least, it has answered some of these questions. Like, it's a bit clear in my mind what it is that works for us, at least, and where it starts to fall apart or might be lacking, and what elements of it might be a priority for me. Like, I want embedded narrative. I don't care as much about the emergent one. Like, sometimes that can be to the detriment, perhaps, in the way it might compete with how games are designed with embedded narratives. But I think the evocation is important. The way you introduce me to that world is like, where am I from? Like, having a sense of home, even if that is far away and I'm homeless, is important, I think, to me. And for both of us, although perhaps a bit more for you than me, is the relationships and the characters. Like, I'm a sucker for world more than you are. Like, even if the characters are a bit secondary.
I am a sucker for world, but a character can be the cherry on top. You can really make or break something.
Yeah, I was gonna say, from what I know of you, like, you seem to be a character first, or very character driven.
I think so. I think, like, if you look at some of my favorite games, you can also see it as well. Like, of course, if we were to talk about Bloodborne or Outer Wilds, like, there's not a lot of character to latch on there, but there is a world. But if we were to talk about something like Clair Obscur or Baldur's Gate 3 or Disco Elysium, that's where the character work really brings things to life for me, for those cases. Like, that's the difference. Like, if we're to talk about a Clair Obscur next to a Watch Dogs. Like, I'm not sold first and foremost because of who surrounds you, not because of what is happening. So I guess it's a combination of home, people, ecology. Weirdly enough, yeah, we do not
history.
Yeah.
I think it's the
history,
and the history not in the sense of necessarily like books and telling you things about the world, but more like seeing evidence or the marks that life has left on that in that place.
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of games that made me feel like I belonged there was like had history, had these like ruins and not necessarily text, like because when you can go overboard with text and fuck everything up.
Yeah.
Like,
as you know.
Yeah. Have we mentioned Anthem? Yeah.
Or Kojima.
Kojima is a weird case. I never am immersed in his games fully because I'm always too focused on the meta narrative that he always has whenever he makes something. So
yeah, to me, like that the difference is striking there, but it could be also where he is coming from in terms of the cultural context and what tends to be the norm or the tropes in anime versus Western media, or Western media that we like. No, I don't necessarily mean American, like European as well, primarily perhaps.
He pulls from a lot. It's hard to define him. Maybe. Yeah,
anyway,
we'll see.
It's
we're sidetracking again. So
that was more of a side tangent.
Yeah. So if there is a conclusion, is that what makes a world believable? It's the very scientific. It depends. Which is an annoying one.
I mean, I don't know. It's not like we conducted a fucking study here or did any research.
We chatted a bit. I don't know.
It's it's a set of qualitative data between us. Take that with whatever salt is appropriate for that.
And actually, I would love to know from you, the listener, like what is a game that made you feel like it exists, that made you feel in it, and why? And let us know. We have an email address.
Yes, we do have an email. podcast@vole&ottergames.com. You can see it, you can find it in the description as well.
That is podcast@vole&ottergames.com. Honestly, I want to know what people think. Do you agree? Do you disagree with the takes that we have? Are we wrong in every single way?
Did we leave out any important components here that we've not thought of? Are we conflating something with something else? I'm curious about this stuff. I think about this shit a lot when I play.
Yeah, me too. I was thinking a lot about it now that I started Death Stranding 2, and if and why it works for me. It's odd. It's odd. It's something that potentially, depending on how we feel by the end of this being released, if we're going to talk about it a bit more, if more examples.
Death Stranding 2?
No, the world immersion.
Right. I think it's worth perhaps in the future exploring the choices. Because that was an interesting one, I suppose, in that if all you do in a game is choices, which kinds of choices hurt it? And why? Because the Telltale games never feel it's like I'm watching like an interactive theater that has a very, very limited,
or TV rather
limited. Again, it's like it's whatever is written, obviously, but anyway, the different kind of discussion that emerged from this.
Yeah. Well, thank you for listening.
Yes, hope you found this interesting, and we'll be back in 2 weeks with who knows what.
Something.
Thank
everyone that helped us make this podcast. We know who you are. Thank you, Bapis.
for chasing things around while we were recording.
Yeah, thank you for delaying us. And thank you, Vol, for being an upstanding citizen. That means you're on a standing desk right now, so I'm just commenting on that.
Oh, okay, right. I'm like, what did I do?
It's hard to describe, but when I manage to confuse Vol, it's like my highlight of my day. I love it. and I just did it, so I'm really happy. I'm ending
It's a confusion that goes like, did I do something? Or like, is this a reference that's just flying over my head?
I'm very happy. All right. Bye everyone.
See you in 2 weeks. Bye.